these are different spaces, right? Then there is a term called chronomics, right? Chronomics is the study of time, and how, and your communication also alters with the way you utilize your time. So for example, if you have you have to appear in an interview and you get late over there, right? So when you get late over there, do you think it is going to, give a good impression of you in front of the interviewers? I don't think so anybody would say yes. It will definitely not give any good impression of yours. Yes or no? अच्छा impression नहीं जाएगा ना. Now no matter how much knowledgeable you are, no matter whatever degrees you have, so that impression will be your last impression on that person, and definitely your interview will be ruined, right? Okay. Then like, there are different meanings of time which we have, which we have in our head. For example, in India, it is common to it is very common to be late, right? And especially when we talk about, you know uh, when we talk about somebody being late, it is associated with somebody, with that person being a being a VIP, right? Even in your day-to-day communication, when you meet when you have to meet a friend of yours and that person turns up late, so you tend to say, यार तू बड़ा VIP हो गया है, late आ रहा है. Now the whole idea of connecting somebody's importance with time, it's there in India, but it's not the same in in the other countries, right? Or in some other organizations which you may not be a part of. And if you have to deal with a different organization, or for that matter, if you have to deal with a company in some other country, then if you go there with the same attitude, then definitely it is going to affect your reputation, right? So in a professional space, you need to take care of that too. Next is cultural components, cross-cultural communication, cultural shocks, stereotyping, and ethnocentrism. Let me just also uh, just hold on, play my slides so that you have something on the screen as well. So these are certain things which I've already discussed with you, right? Certain definitions of business communication, difference between business communication and and when you talk about communication in general, I've already discussed, right? Now cross cultural communication. Now when we talk about this particular terminology, cross cultural, that means it talks about how people belonging to different cultures communicate with each other. That is why it is cross cultural. Now it is very common, we all live in a globalized world, wherein even when we sit over here, we can just communicate with somebody sitting in Florida, let's say, right? Many of us in the future like may work in MNCs, and some of you might also be working in certain MNCs. Now what are MNCs? What are MNCs? That I know, but what exactly is a multinational company? Right, any company that operates in more than one country, right? That is a multinational company. Multinational company. Now how do these multinational company operate? Now when we move back to like 3 decades, no, like around 1990s and all, so the communication was like, the technology was not that much advanced. People dependent on, let's say, max to max certain emails to communicate with each other around 2000 की अगर बात करूं तो. But with time, with the advancement of technology, we have n number of ways in which we communicate with somebody sitting in some other country. It may be that our boss must be in, let's say, Japan, and we work for that boss over here sitting at the comfort of our home. Now if we have a meeting, we can easily communicate with that person over the Google, let's say Google Meet platform or Microsoft platform, and it is very convenient and easy. So this is cross-cultural communication. But then why do we have to study it? One, because it is very common in our professional space. But इतना significant क्यों है? It is significant because, see, all of us have a different cultural background. All of us are from a different geography. The way we perceive things, the way we understand things are definitely different from the way people in some other country understand things, right? Even when you belong to a particular religion, caste, creed, faith, you may perceive certain things in a different manner as compared to somebody else who has a different faith, religion, caste, creed. Now, when you talk about a whole different culture or a whole different nation, somebody coming from a whole different nation, so that there has to be certain issues in that, right? So that is why it is important to understand cross-cultural communication. Now, what are certain barriers to cross-cultural communication? Assuming similarities. when you think that the other person also perceives everything in the same manner. Now when we talk about this particular gesture, right, now this, in the Western context, it is something positive, okay, all the best, right, it conveys some sort of this thing, right? But when we talk about India, this shows that, you know, that the other person is an illiterate person. When you have to show somebody as an illiterate person in the Indian context, it depicts that. In the similar manner, there are one or two countries wherein this is yes and this is no. Now, if you think that, if you assume that your gesture is similar, like your gesture conveys the same meaning to the other person belonging to some other culture or region, then that is going to cause problem. So assuming similarities is one problem, like is one of the factors that causes barriers during cross-cultural communication. Then misinterpretations of non-verbal communication. This is something that we have just again discussed. Like if there are certain non-verbal ways of communication, so you may have a different way of communicating, the other person may have another way of communicating, and one of you may just misinterpret, right? Preconceived notions or stereotyping. Now this is again common. Let's say if somebody is from some other country, and you already have certain notions about that person in mind, कि यार ये तो late ही होगा, and you adjust your time according to that, you adjust according to that. Or for that matter, you have a notion that they are very rude people. Like for example, if you just assume, I don't know whether it is in reality, but let's assume, let's have this preconceived notion that people from Argentina are very rude. Now if I go to have a meeting with somebody from Argentina, then with that preconceived notion, my communication with that person will also be affected, because psychologically I am in that zone where I am somehow phobic to that person, because मैंने अपने माइंड में बना लिया है कि वो तो मतलब कहीं ना कहीं रूडी होगा, तो मैं उसी हिसाब से अपना कम्युनिकेशन करूंगा, and that may again become a barrier. Then difference in language, that is definitely a problem. So for example, if he knows Spanish and he's my boss, I'm sitting over here in India and I don't know Spanish, so a translator at my boss's end will be required for us to communicate, right? Now, if the translator is, some sort of bothered with the boss, now there is going to be disaster. Yes or no? So the idea is, when there is a difference in language, you need to have a proper translator and interpreter, right? If there is a lack of that, then definitely there are n number of ways. You have Google Translator these days, and then you can utilize non-verbal attributes to communicate as well, but then that can also be misinterpreted. Premature evaluation. At times we prematurely evaluate somebody's, let's say, company or somebody's culture, right, or from wherever that person comes from. That again causes barriers during cross-cultural communication, right? Moving further, now how to improve cross-cultural communication? These are not all, but certain certain ways in which you can improve your cross-cultural communication. Appropriate etiquette. Now you need to have the right etiquette. Etiquette is what? Like the ideal behavior, how you present yourself, that is your etiquette, right? So you need to have appropriate etiquette. Say no to slangs. Avoid using slangs, because if you talk about professional communication, you should stop saying like I'm gonna go there. Now that is just a way of colloquial way of speaking with somebody, a casual way of speaking with somebody, but avoid speaking such things. Avoid slangs. ROFL. Like, I know this sounds really cool, but then avoid it from your professional space. Even when it is a WhatsApp group where your colleagues are connected with you, avoid using certain terminologies, right? Say no to slangs. Okay, right pace volume while you speak. Now when you talk about cross cultural communication, let's say if this yes yes, slang is basically the words, certain words which you use colloquially, as in बोल चाल की भाषा में. Just let's say, यार रोटी शोटी खा लें चल के. Now shoti is nothing. समझ रहे हो बात को? So this guy, let's say he knows French, right? Okay. Can भाई देख, दो ऑप्शंस हैं, या तो चुपचाप सुन ले या तो बाहर चले जा, अटेंडेंस मार्क होनी नहीं है, मतलब लेट्स स्टडी और लेट्स जस्ट go out and have a good time. एक चीज कर लो. Okay, so right pace volume while you speak. Let's say this guy knows French. He's from France. He knows French, and I know English or Hindi. Like, let's say I know English, right? Now he has just a slight idea about English. He understands things, but is not able to speak in a good way. Now, if I won't have the right pace, right, when I speak, if I won't have the right pace, or if I won't speak at at a good enough volume, it will be very difficult for him to understand. Now, because all of you understand English, or for that matter all of you understand Hindi, तो मैं अगर जल्दी जल्दी भी बोलता हूँ, थोड़ा सा धीरे आवाज में बोलूंगा, तो आप लोग डिसाइफर कर पाओगे. बट इस इंसान के लिए, जो कि इसको जो फ्रांस का है, बट इसे इंग्लिश थोड़ी बहुत आती है, समझ सकता है, थोड़ा बहुत लिख सकता है, राइट, तो इसके लिए मुझे अपनी आवाज ऊंची रखनी पड़ेगी, पेस को इस तरह से रखना पड़ेगा ना, बहुत धीरे कि ये भी कहे कि अरे तेज बोलना, थोड़ा जल्दी जल्दी खत्म कर, इतना भी नहीं कि समझ ही ना आए उसको, right? So when you do cross cultural communication, you need to keep that thing in mind. Clarity. Now, clarity of what? See, in any communication, clarity is must. Now, what clarity is it? It is clarity of thought. If I want to convey you something, so I need to be clear about that thing first, and then I will convey it to you, right? If I myself won't have a clarity about it, how will I convey it to you? Now, let's say uh, a particular product. Now, I read it like during like my ninth class, 2008. No, लगाते हैं ना, what do we call that? Sorry, ear mufflers, whatever. So I read back in 2009, जो हमारा टाइम्स एनआईई का वर्जन आता था, कि वो चाइनीज लोग अपने डॉग्स को, now the idea is, if I want to launch some sort of a that product, like, right, if a Chinese person wants to launch that sort of a product for our people, and if that person won't convey about it rightly, then this will happen, wherein we will start wearing it in our ears. Are you getting my point? Like, the whole and sole idea was to tell you that when you do cross cultural communication, you need to be clear with your thought and the way you express, because when we talk about clarity, it is not just your thought which you should be clear about, rather how you express that thought, right? Moving next, avoid asking close ended questions. It is assumed to be rude. जब आप किसी और देश के इंसान से बात करते हो, उसका आपका कल्चर सेम नहीं है, कहीं ना कहीं लैंग्वेज डिफरेंस भी है, देयर आर एंड नंबर ऑफ डिफरेंसेस. नाउ एट टाइम्स पीपल फ्रॉम मेनी कंट्रीज कंसीडर इट रूड व्हेन यू आस्क देम क्वेश्चंस, अ क्लोज एंडेड क्वेश्चन जिसका जवाब यस या नो में होगा. So make your questions in a way that gives them space of talking about it, even if when they are not able to explain. शायद उन्हें नहीं बोलना नहीं आ रहा होगा, as in they want to express themselves, but because you have given them a close-ended question, उन्हें हाँ या ना में जवाब देना है. Now that is being rude. So try avoiding close-ended questions. ठीक है भाई? पक्का? Yes? Is it clear? Okay. Humor, play it well. Now, in any communication, humor is important. But what sort of a humor? We are not having a, Kapil Sharma's concert or something, right? So, what sort of a humor? The right amount of humor, and you need to know who to, have a humor with, and how to and when to. कहीं नहीं कि एक सीरियस बात चल रही बीच में, can I crack a joke? Joke याद आया? No, you can't do that. So find the right person to, have that humor thing with, and right way of doing it, and right time when to do it. Maybe when people are just sitting with each other and thinking about it, and you come up with an idea which is sort of an obtuse idea, but you would like to share it so as to just make the environment light for others to have for others to think in a light manner, then you can do it. You can't do it in a way in the middle of a serious conversation. In fact, when you have humor in your cross cultural communication, even if it is a language barrier, so even when there is a language barrier, so it will make the other person comfortable, राइट? अगर लैंग्वेज बैरियर है भाई और मेरे बीच में, राइट, हम दोनों अलग अलग कल्चर से अलग अलग रीजनल बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं, सो इफ आई I create some sort of humor during our communication, so he may be just slightly comfortable. Okay, so that's what. Consideration and courtesy. You need to be considerate towards the other person. You need to understand the other person has a different frame of mind as compared to yours. The other person comes from a different background as compared to yours. So you need to keep your communication that way. You need to be polite, that is courtesy. You need to be polite and kind towards the other person when you speak something, right? Be supportive. If, let's say, if somebody is trying to utter some word who is not acquainted with that language, help that person. Try that person to, find the right word. If you can understand the thing that he is trying to convey, just fill the gaps. Don't wait for the other person to sort of stammer and speak and make fun of that person, right? Work environment opportunities to all. Now when we talk about cross cultural communication, they, like, no matter what culture a person to all. So this is again something that you need to keep in your mind. So these were certain strategies we discussed in the last class. I'm not going to delve into it. Cultural shock: if a person moves from one country to the other country. Now you must have watched certain Indian Bollywood movies like that, right, in which a person goes from India to some other country, and there are n number of issues that a person has to face. Now this cultural shock, how is it relevant to professional space? Now you may be sent for a meeting to some other country, right, or you may have to come in, or you may host somebody from some other country to have a meeting with you. Now there are certain habits of that person you may not like. So that, that disliking, that repulsion that you will feel with the other person, that is cultural shock, right? Cultural shock को अगर प्रोफेशनल स्पेस से हटा के अगर समझने की कोशिश करें, तो जनरेशन गैप की वजह से जो आपके दादाजी को आपसे फील होता है, वो भी कहीं ना कहीं एक कल्चरल शॉक का ही पार्ट है. A person coming from Tamil Nadu and looking at the food eating habit of Punjabis, that again may be a cultural shock. I mean, so at times, there are people who belong to a particular place, they don't use a lot of spices, but the other person who belongs to some other place uses a lot of spices. That again is cultural shock. But we are talking about cultural shock in terms of communication, right? So here are certain pointers, you can have a look at it, and I'm not going to go in details. I've already discussed it in the online classes. Moving further, there are certain attributes of cultural shocks. Here are certain things: because you get lonely, depressed, you become homesick, right? Then you isolate yourself, you are not able to manage your time properly. So these are certain symptoms, right? So I'm just moving to the other topic. This is again another topic that we finished. Just trying to recapitulate whatever we have done. Netiquette comes from internet plus etiquette. Net from internet, etiquette, right? So it becomes netiquette. How you keep yourself when you are on a digital platform. जब आप इंटरनेट के थ्रू कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं, तो आपके etiquettes क्या हैं? Those are netiquettes. Now what are the basic netiquettes? See, you people can click, if because obviously you people haven't attended all those classes, so you people can click anything that is displayed to you on the screen. So feel free to do that. So etiquette is the code of conduct, how you behave with somebody. But then what is netiquette? How you behave on internet, that is netiquette. Here are certain things that you need to join early. Don't join late. You need to cut noise. If you are in an online meeting, try not to keep yourself unmute when there is a lot of sound. If, let's say, you are being asked to unmute, prefer typing in the chat box that you won't be able to unmute because there is a noise. But later on, just in case there is a gap, try to type again that I can now speak if there is anything required from my end, right? Clean wrap up. So wherever you sit, so please try to have your space clean. Now this is this space. Also, when you present something, try to keep your files easily detectable. Stay focused. If you are on the screen, right, if your camera is on, so try to stay focused. I know that when you sit at home, there are n number of things that happen at your home, and there are n number of distractions, but try to be focused on the screen. Look into the camera and on the screen if there is something that is presented, right? So there are some other ground rules as well. I'm moving to the next slide. So okay, so we need to focus on the dress code as well. Now there is no dress code as in dress code per se, but then you obviously in an early morning meeting, or if we, the type of when we have an online class, I can't just sit casually in front of you ऐसे तकिए वकिए लगा के आराम से. So obviously that is not the way I need to when dress up. If you are going for an interview, and even if it is an online interview, you can't just go into your hoodie and sit there. at least try to sit in formals. At least the upper half of your body should look like formal, let alone the right. So there are certain pointers that you can keep in mind, right? Certain do's we've already discussed it include each participant in the planning of the agenda. Now, when you decide, like this is related to the professional space. So when you decide to have a client meeting, just mail them the not just the meeting link, rather also give them pointers, the agendas for the meeting, the objectives for the meeting, so that they also come prepared. उन्हें धप्पा नहीं करना, ठीक है? अच्छा ये बात करनी है, no. Begin the meeting on a high tone. Now, you need to begin the meeting on a tone that is enthusiastic. Don't bore the people in the very beginning itself. It should, be interesting to those people. Now, when you ask everybody to speak, don't be biased that you ask just two, three of them and you don't ask the rest of them, right? So you need to give each other some time, right, to speak. Keep track of all choices made during meetings. Use an automated note taker. Now, there are people who give opinions in between. So either just keep noting things down, then it is very difficult, or there are transcribers as well. Automatic Google Meet आपको automatic transcriber देता है. Whatever you speak in that meeting, it also mails you the whole transcribed thing, transcribed text. So you can make use of that too. Action items should be delegated. So if there is some, like, let's say if you want people to participate in a let's say in some voting. Let's say you want to launch a product. So if you want to ask 100 of your employees that where all to launch all of these products, now you can't ask them singularly in between the meeting. Just give them, just give them the link beforehand, or share it in the chat box early during the meeting itself and inform that you need to fill it accordingly. We will have a discussion and discussion ahead. Also, whatever we decide will be based on your choices. So action item should be delegated. You should delegate the action. If they have to do something, delegate it to them beforehand. That is preferable, right? Now last is distribute meeting minutes to stakeholders. Now what is minutes of meeting? Minutes of meeting includes the agenda, then whatever happens in the meeting, जो भी pointers आप discuss करते हैं, and then finally what are the decisions that are made by everyone, and there each and every person signs. Now this happens in physical mode. Let's say if we all have a meeting right now, we all work in a company and we all have a meeting right now, and we four are the major people who are holding that meeting. Now we will set up an agenda. We'll share with you all the timings on the mail itself, right? We'll tell you the agendas of the meeting. Then let's say if this guy is writing the minutes of the meeting, he'll write the agenda or objective of the meeting on the top. On the top, he'll write minutes of the meeting, then agendas of the meeting 1, 2, 3, or objectives of the meeting. Then next point will be discussion 1. Whatever we will talk about, let's say if she puts up a point, he will write whatever is her name, a hyphen this, not in a very descriptive way, but at least which is understood by majority of people. If she says something, b dash whatever she speaks. At the end of it, if all of us come on a conclusion, so that conclusion or decision will be mentioned, right? And then it will be shared with all the stakeholders, wherein after we four sign, because we are we are the persons of at an authority, right? We have held the meeting for you all, so we will sign that sheet, and then all of you will sign one by one for telling that you were present and you agree to all of it. Now, how to do it when we talk about online communication? So you need to mail it to everybody, right? And then definitely you can create an option over there whether they are okay with it, yes, no, or whatever. Like you can ask them to fill a Google form. If they've read it, then they should fill that Google form. Are they satisfied with the minutes of the meeting? Yes, no, yes. So do they agree that they were present? Yes, no. Third, please attach a screenshot of your presence on the screen during the meeting. File image uploaded, submit. So this is the way in which it is done in the online meetings, a preferable way in which it can be done in the online meeting. Online meeting, okay, have we missed something? No. Okay, online meetings don't. Please do not interrupt others. See, yes, brother. Transcribed is basically when you speak something and the transcript of it, whatever you speak, उसका transcript बनता हुआ आ रहा है. जो आप script बोल रहे हो, right? Moving on. There are certain don'ts. Please do not interrupt others, right? So, for example, see, in like if we sit over here right now and communicate with each other, definitely if these four are speaking at the same time, I as the head over here, let's say right now, I can just stop these three people, and there is a control. Even these four people will understand that okay, let this person speak. I'll speak after that, so they can just say, please carry on, right? But when you talk about online meetings, at times everybody is in a hurry to speak, and because the host does not have much control most of the times, right? The other person can easily unmute and speak. So try, if you are a participant, try not to interrupt others. Avoid speaking too soon, right? So listen to the whole discourse or whatever is happening in the meeting, and then speak or deliberate your point. Don't be late or begin late. Avoid concentrating just on status updates, right? If you passive listening नहीं करनी है हमें कि जब कोई major point सुना तभी बस सुनेंगे, नहीं. Listen throughout, be an active listener. Don't stay maintain as much consistency as feasible because you are sitting at the comfort of home, or you may not also be on the camera. Don't just मटर छीलने मत लग जाओ, you know don't start dusting your books, right? Don't look into your WhatsApp chats. Don't deviate your mind. Don't turn meetings into lengthy speeches because time has to be respected, right? So if you are deliberating something in that meeting, do not make your speech lengthy, right? ज़्यादा नहीं बोलने का है. LinkedIn is something we've already discussed. I'm not going to talk about it. Telephonic skills, right? Not telephone and you. Now all of you must have, like सबके पास mobile phone तो है, basic होगा, I suppose that, right? Now how is telephone how is telephone important in your day-to-day life? Obviously sitting at a particular place you can communicate with some other person, and it may just seem to you that यार telephone skills क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं, मतलब बात तो रोज ही करते हैं, किसी ना किसी करते हैं. That is why we'll just discuss it briefly because it gets relevant when we talk about professional life. There are see, I wanted to point you to, since the very beginning, like the very moment you entered the room, I might just ask you to leave, and please leave without being bothered if I ask you to. I don't want this to be interrupted. Okay. So yeah, just distracted me. So yeah, when we talk about telephone, right? So these days even interviews happen over telephonic calls, and I think you must be aware of it. Now, even if I am a teacher at in a particular college, it is not that my students can't communicate with me over a telephonic call, or my colleagues don't call me and communicate with me over telephonic call. They do. Now, even my communication with my colleagues over that telephonic call or with my students over that telephonic call also matters, and it determines my personality. It also tells a lot about me to them, right? It creates a whole different impression about me in front of them. It creates a whole, yes. बेटा बाहर लिखा है. हाँ. Are you from BBA? Sit there. Why are you late? Okay. So there are n number of conditions or circumstances in which we have to communicate with a person on a telephonic call. Here are certain pointers for you. Alertness, alertness. So you need to be wide awake. Now wide awake का मतलब ये है, if somebody is speaking something, see, because this is a sort of semi-personal conversation that you have. Completely impersonal communication क्या होता है? Written communication. Impersonal होता है mostly. Now सेमी पर्सनल क्या होता है? जब आप किसी को कॉल करते हो. पर्सनल बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है जब आप उससे मिल के बात करते हो. Because see, this is something common that must have happened with you people, that at times when you converse with your friends, so you tend to say, यार देख तेरे को ना मुझे लगता है समझ नहीं आया, लेट अस जस्ट स्पीक ओवर द कॉल, तब मैं तेरे को समझाऊंगी, मिलके बात करते हैं. दिस इज समथिंग वेरी कॉमन. Yes or no? Now, why do you say that? Because you want to add a personal touch to the whole communication so that the other person understands you better, right? So, you need to be wide awake, as in if somebody is speaking something, right, that person is not in front of you. If that person is sharing something and that person has, sort of, that person has started crying on the other side of the phone. Now, that does not happen in businesses. Just telling you a day-to-day example, then we'll jump onto businesses. If that person has started crying, now you can't see that person, but then you have to keep your ears open so that you listen and understand. Yes or no? So that is wide awake. That is what wide awake means. At times, you know, we uh, we are on a conference call with boss and certain clients wherein we are solving a particular issue that has come up. Now you need to listen to the issue of the client. Otherwise, you will not just create a bad impression of yourself in the boss, in front of the boss. Rather, even the client will lose trust in you or confidence in you, that you won't be able to solve his or her problem. So show that you are ready to engage in a conversation. So there are conversation like, hmm, okay, और बता, 10 minutes, hmm, okay, और बता. Now this is one conversation. Yes sir, all right sir, okay sir, yes sir, no sir. So don't make, see, obviously if it is your head who is instructing something, so you obviously can't. So let's talk about your wife. You can't say that. you can't, you can't say that just to engage. You can't do that. But definitely, if it is your client, you can make it sort of engaging. Hello, sir. It's been long since we spoke. How have you been doing? So last time you came in the last time you came to office with your wife, she seemed to be sick. Is she all right now? All right, sir. That's great, sir. Yes. Tell me what is your problem. Now that would give a whole different feeling to that person, and that person will feel more comfortable with you to speak, right? Show that you okay. Put a smile on your face. Now you can put a smile on your face, but how can you put a smile in your voice? But then if I speak like this, hey, yes sir, I am doing fine. I'm doing fine, sir. Yes, I worked on this. Hi, sir. Yes, I have done all of the work that you assigned me. Now, there is a way in which you speak that creates all the difference, right? So, put a smile in your voice. Obviously, literally, it is not possible, but metaphorically, it is possible that you should sound bit not excited per se, but you should sound confident in what you speak, right? Use simple, straightforward language. Avoid technical term slang. So you need to avoid jargons unnecessarily. You need to avoid using languages which may not be understood by the other person. Because सामने होते आप नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन से समझा सकते हो, but then when you are not in front of the other person, you are over a telephonic call, you can't make the other person understand through your gesture, right? अब फोन पे हो, अगले को कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा, तुम इशारों से यही बात कर रहे हो, नहीं होगा ना. That person won't be able to understand. This is important in professional space as well. You need to use simple language. You don't know whether your client is acquainted with the knowledge of certain terminologies or not. If you are, if when does your class end? 45. Will exceed it for 10 minutes. Do you have a class after this? At what time? थोड़ा compromise कर लो. Okay, so let's say you are a salesperson from Kent Aquaguard, right? Now you have called up a client, right, who filed a complaint over the mail. Now you have called that person up and you try to make him understand what exactly is the flaw, or with what particular with what particular equipment is like which whatever is there in that aquaguard, with what particular equipment there is a problem. So that person may not be acquainted with the name of that particular equipment inside that aquaguard. You'll have to make him or her understand that okay, sir, there is an equipment which is known by this name and it does this. So I think the process that is happening there, so there is a flaw with that. You can't just say sir इसमें problem है, उसे नहीं पता. So either explain it or do not use it. Try to make it simpler when you communicate that particular thing to that person. So speak directly into the phone. Don't keep the phone, you are having a conversation with your friend and then you have kept your phone aside and loudspeaker पे लगा के सुन रहे हो. तुम्हें तो सुनाई दे रहा है, but when you will speak, there will be other noises as well which will go along with you. So speak directly into the phone, right? Use a normal tone of voice. The louder you are, the louder everyone else becomes. So use a normal tone of voice. Now you need to decide with what tone you need to speak. At times somebody may be an old aged person, so you need to ask that person, am I audible, sir? Because these are some basic problems with the old age people. So you will modulate your voice according to that. If you are speaking with a patient, so you need to speak in a softer voice, you need to sound empathetic. If you are talking to a person who has lost his dear one and you have to tell that person that that person can take leave, तो उसी के फायदे की बात कर रहे हो, लेकिन बोलते हैं hey, you can go on a holiday. That person has lost somebody. You need to be empathetic, you need to soft kinder and softer, right? So you need to decide your tone of voice as per how it is required, and remember, the louder you get, the louder the other person may also get. So know that even when you have an argument, so try to tone down. Talk at a moderate rate and volume, but vary your voice. And this is something that we have already discussed. Moving on to the other. So here are certain positive telephonic skills. Positive greeting. You need to greet the other person. You don't just go to somebody and say, "Do you know you have to do this?" No, say hi or hello or something to greet that person, right? Active listening. Now you can't, because you have called. पैसे मेरे जा रहे हैं, तो मैं बोलूँगा I know Ambani has done a great deal and we all have free internet, free call. We just pay 250 or something and then we can talk, extensively as many hours as we can. But there was time. Those are the 11 when we had to pay. I used to pay. So that time we used to decide बोलेगा कौन, जिसने call किया वो बोलेगा. But the whole and sole idea is you need to be an active listener when you are on a telephonic call, right? Take control. Now, when you have the right telephonic skills, so you need to also so you will be able to take control of the conversation, and it is important. So the other person, if the other person goes haywire, so your right telephonic skills will help you to take control of the situation, and you will keep the communication focused and in a logical fashion. You won't let the other person deviate, because when we talk about a professional setup, and if I am her client, right, and she asks me, sir, how are you doing, before she actually comes to the point, and I started talking elaborately about my health. See, I have been lately feeling very sick. My wife doesn't give me medicine at the right time. No, she does not have to do anything with that. मुझे उसको नहीं करना कुछ इससे. So right telephonic skills is she brings back the communication and she streamlines everything. Just because she asked, I can't just start crying in front of her. Resolving the issue. So right telephonic skills also make you resolve the issue. So for example, if this guy is facing an issue in a particular product which he bought from me, so at times I can just communicate things to him over a telephonic call, and he can do he can make his equipment, or he can make the device all right. So lately it happened, I had a problem in my inverter. So it was around 11:30 p.m. at night. So I called the mechanic who usually comes to my home, and he told me how to make the direct connection and make things all right. So right telephonic skills also make you resolve a particular issue. Just to give you an example, mirroring the customer. So you need to create an image of the mind. Okay, sorry, create an image of the other person in your mind when you talk to somebody, and that will help you have an effective communication on telephone. Handling angry customers. So definitely this is something very common in professional space. So there will be angry customers, and that too if somebody is from Haryana, Delhi, the whole thing. So how to manage those people? So yeah, definitely good telephonic skills help. Telephone etiquette. Now this is all about, obviously you are not meeting somebody and the other person doesn't know whether how you have dressed up or whether or not you have or not. But then what is important is to have the right etiquette. You speak to somebody, so when you call that person, you make the right greeting. Or if the other person coughs, so you may just pause. You can't just keep on speaking. You should pause. take a pause, right? So these are certain telephone etiquettes. If somebody is calling from the other person's end, you can say, sir, if you have time, you can say, sir, you may please continue with that. I can hold on for a minute. So these are certain telephone etiquettes, right? Just have a look at it. Adopt a positive tone. We've discussed it. Clear enunciation. So you need to have the right pronunciation when you speak something. Be sincere. Start with a greeting. We have discussed. Use names. Now this is very important. If somebody calls you with your own name, so it gives a personal touch. It gives a personal touch, right? So better call people with their names, right? Leave the customer satisfied. Now when when you have the right set of telephonic skills and you communicate things well, so it will definitely leave the customer satisfied. And these days, there is an option that each and every company has created for the customers or the person who call, so as to give a feedback to whosoever they speak with, right? I think we have 5 more minutes. We'll just wrap up. So don't frown, mutter, tired sound में नहीं बोलना, shrill voice नहीं होनी चाहिए, negative rambling नहीं होनी चाहिए. Do smile. Now you can't just smile because you are not visible, but you should sound confident. Speak clearly and concisely. You need to speak clearly. Whatever you speak, right pronunciation, right pace, right volume, and concisely. Keep everything concise, right? Now that means that you need to respect the other person's time. You can't keep on speaking unnecessary things. You can't beat around the bush. Be enthusiastic. Again, it shows that you are confident. You will make the other person comfortable with that. Lower the pitch of your voice if not required. Just keep the tone normal, right? Talk in a positive mood. Don't say, hey, how are you doing? You can't. So talk in a positive. Hey, what's up? How you doing? So talk in a positive tone. Listen. So and then discuss. If you have to discuss something, listen first and then discuss. It is important to listen and then talk about something. That's all for today. Hold on. I am not really sure if we'll be having another physical class next time, but irrespective of the fact whether we have a physical class or an online class, I want all of you to attend that class, right? If I think you people must be reaching home around 7 by max. At max 7 बजे तक तो पहुंच जाते होगे. अगर आप लोग जॉब करते होगे तो 7 बजे ज्वाइन कर लो. What's the big deal? But do join it. आज हम और टॉपिक्स कर पाते अगर आप लोगों ने वो क्लासेस अटेंड की होती. ठीक है. Try attending if the classes that you have online as well, right? I need all those 2 sheets that, right? In the next class, can I have a moment of silence? In the next class, we'll be doing letter writing, and we'll be doing persuasion skills, negotiation skills, summary paraphrasing, right? And maybe group discussion. These are the 5 topics that we'll do. It will be better if you come prepared, right? All right, that's it. Now you can go.